Hello and welcome to ClickLearn Tech Days. My name is Peter Højlund and I'm working as Customer Success Manager here at ClickLearn. Today we'll have a glance into ClickLearn Attain. We'll look into Deploy to Anywhere as the session's about. Because ClickLearn is of course fantastic when it comes to documenting any processes that you have in your applications. And today we'll look into recording actually on a Power App. Then we'll do a set of recordings, we'll organize them, set up a learning portal, and then we have everything created and organized. How do we then deliver it to our end users? What are the options that we have? Can we set up security? Can we make sure that who's looking into our material, how we're tracking them, understanding how they're engaging with the material? And then, of course, where can we deploy this? How can we have them interact with the documentation? So these are the things that we'll look into today. And actually, let us just jump directly into it and look at the solution. When that's said, if you have any questions as we go through this little presentation, if there is anything that you're wondering about, please use the question pane in your GoToWebinar panel to add in any questions you have there. We will have a little wrap up at the end where we'll answer some of the questions. And if we don't have the time to answer all questions, then we'll of course follow up on that later on today or tomorrow. So here we are within ClickLearn Attain. In ClickLearn Attain, we work in projects. So as you can see here, I already created a project and I also have a coworker that are working on a project. So I always have a complete overview of what projects are there being worked on within the organization. Now, to start up a project is quite easy. I just click on plus, and then ClickLearn will guide me through all the steps that are required for setting up this project. I can, of course, always come back and change anything that I choose to do in here. So in this case here, we'll set this up as a content project. I can set up myself as an author, a contributor, project leader, etc. I can invite people into my team because with ClickLearn, we have a complete collaboration platform, meaning that whoever you want to work together on the project here, they will be invited in. They will have the same access or the restricted access that you provide for them. And at the same time, you can now help each other on finishing tasks inside. And here you can see I go in and choose the primary connector that I'm going to be using. I choose what version it is that I'm going to be recording on. And now to the fun part, the deployment. This is where I can start setting up how do I want my end users to be able to engage with the material. Since ClickLearn Attain is cloud first and we are having this fantastic way of collaborating within the application, then of course I want to use that same features that I can get from the ContentCloud. So I'm going to have this posted on my ContentCloud. I can also add this to my SharePoint. Then ClickLearn will create guidance on how to add that into the SharePoint application. And I can even add on that I want to have this available from within my Power Learning platform. I can, of course, also host this myself if I want to on any internal servers, and all of that we will, of course, also help you with. But today, let's take a glance at some of the features that we instantly make available for you. If I want to localize this into different languages, this is where I then also go in and add the different languages that I want to be working with in this project. So, we've set up a project, and let's have a glance at a pre-created project that I did earlier. As I already said, we're going to be recording this on a Power platform. So I've called this Power Learning. It's a project where I'm going to walk through some of the instructions that you need to be aware of when you're going into the innovation channels from Microsoft. As you can see here, I already created a couple of recordings. And just to have a refresh on how is it that we actually do a recording, all I do is just go up here on New, click Create a new recording, ClickLearn asks me to give it a name. I choose what language I initially want to record on. Is it either one of the ones in here or do I want to add in a language to that? Now I'm pretty happy to start out with English. Then I can choose the place of where I want to have this located. Now I'm going to have this on the recordings of my ContentCloud folder. Click Next. ClickLearn take me to the live system and turns on the recording assistant. And I can in here choose if I want to do each recording step by step or if I want to show a complete process from end to end and have it automatically just follow me. In this case here, I'll choose automatic. I'll ask it to record the next steps here. ClickLearn takes me to the live system and I can instantly go about recording a process in my Power Platform. It does not matter what platform we're recording from because ClickLearn works the same way on all the different platforms that we're working through. All we do is that we follow along, show the process. If we want to add in additional data, we can do that. If I want to delete text, if I want to choose anything from a drop-down menu, context menu, all of that ClickLearn understands and follows along. Now, I'm just going to stop the recording here, and then we can see that the steps I just recorded, they're already being aligned. I can see down here how it will take out in my presentation, where are the marking of the area of interest, etc. Even if I needed to add in a annotated screen capture, I can do that in here by simply just clicking on the little camera. ClickLearn takes a picture of the screen, and then notice that here are 69 different steps that we can go in and give a talk about. Now in this case here, I'll just stop the recording and then we'll take a glance at what is the magic. So if I start the editor, then ClickLearn goes in and it automatically creates cropped screen captures. It marks up the area of interest, and it also allows me to see all my several different learning formats. So the brilliance about ClickLearn is that you give the ability to your end users to learn in the style of their choice. Not only do they get an HTML page, a Word or a PDF document that could be similar to a white paper, but you also give the ability to go in and do social training by creating a PowerPoint presentation, so that if you're doing a classroom session, then you have a presentation that you can work from. We even create video material so you can support auditive and visual stimulants, meaning that we have a video where it shows you exactly where we will walk through the process. It narrates each of the instructions and sentences, and even if I inside the editor here adds additional information by adding in notes, explanations on why we're doing stuff in this process, well then ClickLearn will narrate that for me. It will give me a try me video, which is going to be an interactive video where if I am kinesthetic, I can actually feel the process. I can get to play around with it because ClickLearn will show me where to click. I go click them, I perform the tasks that are being required of me, and I get to understand how will this actually take out if I was in the live system. But again, in a safe environment of the video, so you cannot tamper with any valuable data. And then of course we create the test me video to certify that your end users are ready to go to the live system. And within this editor, I can of course add in text blocks, I can add in chapters, I can organize all my different groups in here, set things together in different sections. Anything that I would require to set up a process or add additional information, I can do that. Now, if we take a glance at a process where I've already done this, then you can see here how ClickLearn has added in an objective, I've added in a note in here, I've organized some of my steps together so I get both the inscription and the field of interest added together. Everything aligned how I wanted this to be presented. And of course, all of it done with the templating of my choice. So in this case here, we will have the ClickLearn colors, my font style, etc. Of course, all of that customizable so it has that look and feel that you want to deliver. And when you've done that with all your recordings, everything is aligned and organized how you want this to be delivered, well then we want to structure it in a learning portal so that your end users can easily engage with the material. To do that, we go in here to the structure. In the structure, I can now add in headers. I can add in sections where I want to group my different recordings underneath. I can title those sections. I can add in colors. I can pretty much do exactly how I want this to be delivered. In this case, you can see how I already created 3 sections. Underneath the section of the challenge, I've dragged over 4 recordings that you can see here. I've chosen the color of my choice, and I even can go in and say, well, this section here I want to be available in all 3 languages here, or I can have unchosen a couple of languages, and then it will only be viewable for the English version. I can also add in segmentation in here. So if I want some of it only to be available for a sales department, or if I want it just for marketing, or however I want to organize this. Many different features in the structure on how do I want to organize my learning portal and how do I want this to be presented to my end users. And of course, we have a preview up here where I can get a quick glance at how did I actually organize this, how did I structure it, and even go into all my different recordings and see how will they take out as an end user would see this. So I've edited all my recordings, I've organized them in a structured manner, and I'm now ready to actually deliver this to my end users. Before we go into that, I can of course always just ask my team if there is something that I need to be aware of, if I want to add something in there, if they would like to just have a quick glance at it. And I can even within this team section here add in tasks to my colleagues and have them run through the different material. If I want to look into the localization, because ClickLearn helps me do this automatically, then I can have a quick glance at where are we within the translation, have I replayed everything, what am I missing, and within the German part here we can see that I'm actually not replayed a couple recordings yet. How would that appear then? What would I want to do here? I can go in here and say, well, actually I have 4 recordings in here, they're all unassigned, please assign them to, for instance, Michael, and then he will go in and take care of that for me. Now, when all of this has been created, then I want to deploy this to my end users. And that is where the publishing part comes in. Now, before we go into that, I actually want to just touch briefly on another feature. And that is the ability for ClickLearn to create all of this in a SCORM format. So if you're going to be using this in a learning management system, well, then we can go in here underneath the template of publishing. I can click on my little portal here, and then I can add in the SCORM package. With that step, I can actually go in and organize how do I want this SCORM package to be created. I can choose the format of the SCORM that I want to deliver it in. I can choose if I want to have some completion control or if I don't want that, if I want to set up the sequence so it only moves forward, or if I want to give the ability for them to move backwards. I can choose if I only want video format. If I only want to see one video format, I can add that in there. So in this case here, we can say we only want to have a try me video, so they need to try out the processes. I can set up how do I want the passing of percentage patches to be in my test me video, for instance, and all these different features I have in here. When I've set it all up, I'll just save the changes, and then ClickLearn will add that into my publishing template. So now I'm back at the publishing. I want to publish this. I want to deploy this to my ContentCloud, as we started out with. I want to deploy this to my SharePoint solution, and I wanted to have it inside my application also. So I check mark all of them. Second, I want to know, do you want to create all the languages? Are they ready for deployment, or are some of them not completely ready? Well, in this case here, I know that the part that I'm missing in there is that I've actually added some recordings that are in half German instructions and with English UIs. So although it says it's almost ready, I actually want to deliver this anyway. Do I want to track the content? Well, in here I can set on if I wanted to be able to know how are my end users working with the documentation. What are they looking for? How are they using it? How do they do in the test me scenarios, etc. All of that I can add in here. Then I want to lock it down. We talked about in the beginning that we want to see, well, what security measures do we have in here? With ClickLearn, you can organize different rule settings in here. So you can either have it completely public. If I uncheck this one here, well, then ClickLearn will create a public URL. Anybody with that URL can access the documentation. Or I can do as I've done here, put it on private. That means that I now need to set up some different rules. Now I set up the rules that the domain of clicklearn.com and EU development team.com here, they can actually access my documentation. I can even set it up so I need to use a SSO. I can add in, for instance, a sign-in service provider. That can be Microsoft, it can be Google Chrome, it can be LinkedIn, up to you. We can choose if it should be just specific email addresses I want to add in here, or complete domains as I've done here, and so forth. So there are many different ways of choosing how do you want this to be looking and who are allowed to view the process. When you set that up, then it will run through the material and see, well, you do know that you asked this to be hosted in an LMS. And we're not capable of adding the content federation in there. So the rule set will deploy the SCORM package that we will deploy to the LMS that will have a low set of security. Is that okay with you? Well, in this case, yes, I've understood it. I'm fine with that. And then I'll click next. Now ClickLearn goes in and produces all my material and sets everything up for me. ClickLearn has now successfully analyzed everything and are ready to publish. So as you can see here, ClickLearn has now produced all the different URLs that I needed for deploying to my different applications and systems. Now, to start out with here, my SCORM package has been built, and ClickLearn has created a URL where I can instantly go up here to my browser, add in the URL. Because I added in the security of my domain, now I need to log in here. And as soon as I do that, ClickLearn now gives me all the different packages that I need. These are all different zip folders, first for all my different recordings, and of course to the entire learning portal. So now I can go in and pick which zip file do I want to, and then upload that to my LMS. Now I actually did that. So if we take a glance here, I have added this into my little learning management system here. And when I go into my course catalog, you can see that I created a couple of courses, one for the entire learning portal and one for a single recording. If we take the entire learning portal, I can say, please view the course. I've actually already started a little bit here, so we can go in and continue this process. And then I have the ability to do that. All of this simply created with ClickLearn instantly, so I can upload it and continue a course from the zip file that was created with the original recordings. The second part here is the ContentCloud. The ContentCloud, that is hosted on Microsoft Azure, and of course here you simply just go in, copy paste the language of choice, and then you do the same as before. We go into the URL, add that one in there, and instantly have access to my material. And of course I can easily access any of the other languages by simply clicking on my little globe up here. Now, SharePoint. Again here, what we do is that we first of all give you a URL that you need to upload to the SharePoint app. So ClickLearn has a little application that you can upload to your SharePoint system. We have a complete document. That is, if you click here, then you get a Word document out where you can see how do I actually go about deploying this to my SharePoint solution. When you do that, then what you get is actually the ability to see it in here. Again, I've added in the ContentCloud app. I can give that a different name if I wanted to. I can add in my credentials again, or I can leave it without, depending on how you set up your securities. And then I access my material inside my SharePoint solution. Now you do recall that I added in a hyperlink to the Innovation Challenge, which all these different documentation was for. So I can instantly get access to that site too. Now, if we take a glance at what we talked about here, it was the inside CRM deployment that we have. Now what you can get here is that you can get a solution file that you upload to your system. Classic as you normally set up a solution file, and then that gives you the ability to get that little help button up here. Underneath the configuration, which you only will view if you're admin to the application or the system, then in here you can go in and add in the learning portal. So in that case here, if I go back to my system and say I want to add in the German one here, I can add that in here, say go. ClickLearn will ask me, do you want to add this to your system? Yes, please, I would love to. And then it will add it up here together with the English version I have in here. If we take it back to the system, that means that instantly I now have access to the two different learning portals that I created, added in here. I have all the view that we know typically, but what it also does is that it understands my application. So when I go in here to the entity of the challenge and I click on my little friend, what he does is that he instantly knows that you can get assistance from in here for 4 different work instructions that relates to the entity of challenge. So if I want to know, well, how do I create a challenge? Well, then my little friend will come up here and now start guiding me through the steps. So the Inside app also not only does it work with the ClickLearn Chrome Assist that we have up here, an extension that you add into your browser, but you can actually, by adding it into the application, get the same guidance in here, but now it's content sensitive. And now it understands that wherever you are within your application, this is the process that would relate to where you are and start guiding you through the steps in here. So quite easily with ClickLearn, you get the ability to go in and choose the places where you want to deploy that. We will, of course, guide you through on how do you make that available inside the different applications that you want to make it available from. And now you can actually access it from wherever you want to. So not only can you host it yourself on your own servers, you can also host it in-app, as we saw here. You can host it from a ContentCloud link, meaning that you can view this from any device at any point in time. And you can also make it available inside your SharePoint solution. And at the same time, you can set up content federation so that you're sure that only the ones that you want to have access to the documentation and the learning material, they have access to it. So that was quite a lot of information in a small amount of time. So Christine, did there come any questions into the chat pod that we do have a little bit of time here left?
Yes, Peter, there was a couple of some really good ones. Let me share with you. The first one we have is, what is the maximum amount for recordings that we can upload and store in the Content Cloud?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, there is no maximum amount. The amount of storage that you need on our Content Cloud, that is completely up to you. The amount of recordings that you want to upload there, that is up to you. So we don't have any limit on how much you want to upload to our Content Cloud.
Awesome. Here's another one now about SharePoint storage. SharePoint storage is not free. How much space does a typical ClickLearn learning portal take up?
As I showed you when we came to the part of the deployment, we get a URL. So the entire learning portal that we created is hosted on ContentCloud. So when it comes to the SharePoint storage, we don't take up anything. We add that one little solution file in there where you can link your documentation to. So we don't take up any storage. All you do is just give you the ability to view it from within the application, and then we host it on the ContentCloud.
Ah, that's a beautiful thing. Here's a really good one too. How many places can you deploy the ClickLearn content to?
As many as you would like to is probably the right answer, because of course you can store this on any server or any device however you want to locally. Completely up to you. However you want to branch it out internally, up to you. When it comes to us helping you out, well, then what we do is that you can host it on our Content Cloud. Those are Microsoft Azure. Get your own login to it. Gives you all the benefits that we already discussed earlier today. And then, of course, you can have that in-app experience, both with the SharePoint solution, with the PC, with the CRM, Power Platform. So there is, for our end, a wide range of possibilities, and in your end, unlimited. Completely up to you, because we don't have any restrictions on how you want to store it, or where you want to store it, and how you want to deploy it.
Great. Lots of flexibility there. And then finally, what deployment do you recommend?
I mean, it's a difficult question, and it's a very easy one. Me, personally, I recommend the Content Cloud. Having the ability to instantly update your material, always add things directly from within your ClickLearn application, add it in, hit update, and then the URL that your end users already have, that'll get updated instantly, and they have access to the new material. Because it's the same URL that they will always be using, we just update the content that it relates to. But again, it's a bit about temperament. What is the right way for you? I definitely see the value in having the in-app experience so that I have the content right where I need it. I have instant links to the things from my Content Cloud directly from within the application. Also, when we talk about the Content Cloud, you can have the ClickLearn Chrome assistant connected to it. That means that it doesn't really matter if you're going to have it in the app or if you're going to have it as a web point. ClickLearn will just help you organize it. And that's probably why my recommendation, that would be on the Content Cloud. Because if you host this yourself, which is of course your choice, then you just need to make sure that everything is maintained and you have a little bit additional work in there. Whereas hitting publish, having it on the Content Cloud, then we take care of the rest of it for you. So my personal recommendation, definitely host it on the Content Cloud and then explore and use all those very neat additional deployment features that we have in Attain.
Sounds very streamlined, very seamless. I like it.
That's all the questions that we are capable of handling today. But of course, if there are any unanswered questions, we will have a look at them after the session here. And then either today or the coming days, we will of course answer them. And not only that, we will also add them to the community of ClickLearn. So we have this fantastic community where all authors and members of ClickLearn, they can go in and add in comments. We can talk about what are the new features in there. If you have any questions, then you can help each other out there. And in here, we will also answer all questions that have not been answered in the session today. If you have any other technical needs, well then of course remember we have our support team. They're located both here in Denmark, Europe, and in Tampa, USA. When all that is said, well then thank you very much for attending this presentation on deploying the content that you created with ClickLearn Attain anywhere you want to. Have a great rest of the Tech Days conference here, and hopefully we will talk to each other again at a later point in time. Thank you for attending.